Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe. Here with me is my co-host Stan.
Hello and greetings.
Given the intro, I guess you can imagine that this isn't going to be an entirely serious video. We're just basically going to have a little fun here because we got to talking, and historically, what if Bakshi had not been the one commissioned to make the Lord of the Rings movie, but rather Walt Disney was? Yes, this is going to take a lot of liberties because Tolkien actually hated Disney, especially after that Snow White movie. This would involve if Christopher had had a brief lapse in judgment. Well, we all know that's impossible for him to have had a lapse in judgment, but what if he had had one? Basically, Disney ends up doing a Mickey Mouse Lord of the Rings. And this would be the casting choices we both kind of mulled over and argued over.
We got a little carried away, I admit.
Yeah. Now we're going to include some characters from also the 90s Disney
afternoon
movies and TV shows. And in this regard, we'll just suppose that this movie did not get made till maybe 1999. So to start with, the most important role, Frodo. Weirdly, we ended up having a hard time with this one. We got to a lot of other characters and then we haven't figured out every character or anything, but I think Chip should play Frodo and Dale Pippin. I don't know why we decided on these two like that. I think with Dale, we were just thinking Pippin is fairly naive at first. There's a sense of idealism with the character, which Dale kind of shares in some interpretations. That said, Pippin is a character who goes through a tremendous character arc. And it felt kind of fitting, I guess, to go with Dale. As for Chip, I don't know why. It's just, why not? As to other characters, okay, let's start with the most important roles. After Frodo, we have Samwise. Mickey, I think.
Yeah.
Mickey's got to be in there. He's got to have a central role. I know someone's going to say, well, maybe Mickey should be Frodo. And yeah, but at the same time, what about Minnie? The only one Minnie can be paired with is Mickey. In that regard, we can't actually make Mickey Frodo because Frodo is celibate, which we ended up moving ourselves into a corner there. It was either Mickey or Goofy, but I want Goofy for Gandalf just because.
The thought of Goofy being the wise, divine, magic-wielding wizard
is a terrifying thought, but I'm sold on the idea. We must have Goofy playing Gandalf. Orodrin can't be played by anyone but Goofy. Then there's Merry. Honestly, Merry is the most experienced adventurer of the Hobbits. He's the most patient, I think, of the lot. So, of course, we have to go with Donald just to make no sense. Because why not have the trio? Mickey, Goofy, and Donald all paired together. So, of course, if Mickey's Samwise, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but this is unscripted. Donald's always getting annoyed with Dale. Well, Chip and Dale. But Merry never gets annoyed with Frodo. Him and Frodo never really argue. I could just imagine Donald taking his hat or something and chucking it and stomping it on the ground. Now, naturally, Daisy won't have much of a role because Merry's love interest. Same with Pippin's, don't really have much of a set of roles. So we've got Goofy as Gandalf. Saruman. I know someone's going to propose Pete, but I don't really see it.
No, there are other Disney villains that we could pick.
I was thinking Mortimer. He's the oldest Disney villain, and he's the biggest counter to Mickey. And he's also skinny, and Saruman is frequently portrayed as skinny.
And I could just imagine Saruman going, ha-cha-cha.
Yeah, he totally would do that, especially to Gandalf. And it also explains how Gandalf got suckered for so long by Saruman, because Goofy can be a little gullible at times. Which brings up Radagast. Given that Gandalf can't have a son, and Gandalf and Radagast are bros, we're just going to change the relationship and say Max playing Radagast the Brown. There's no other character, I think, who I could imagine interacting with him in as amusing a way. Okay, so we've gotten through some of the core Fellowship members. Oh, wait, we got to get through Boromir, Faramir, Aragorn, as well as Elrond, Bilbo. Oh my gosh, there's so many characters. Okay, let's see. For Bilbo, well, given Chip and Dale had a mentor in the Rescue Rangers, we'll just go with that mentor. What was his name?
Morty.
Yeah, Morty. So,
or is it Monty? Anyways.
Something like that. He's a pretty fun character. For Golem, real quick, what about that principal from Goof Troop? Mazer. Him going, my precious. Well, he might do that with his toupee, but then we've got Gimli and Legolas first. Legolas could be Robbie from Goof Troop, since we're including Goof Troop characters.
A Goofy movie.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. The Goofy movie. The cheese-obsessed maniac. And the reason we're including him is because the classic Disney characters, there's not that many of them. So we have to go to the expanded stuff, which means Gizmo Duck will play Gimli.
Yes, I could just imagine how that would go down.
We have a stoner and a tech genius, I guess, which I guess fits with the stereotypes people have of elves and dwarves. It's probably how they perceive each other. Then we got Boromir. Well, okay, first off, we got to establish the fact that father and son or something. So Denethor has to be played by someone who's going to be dad to both Faramir and Boromir, and I can only think of one character to play that role. Pete, which I know Girl Next Gondor is going to be horrified because it means villainizing Denethor, but does have his moments. Although the Peter Jackson movies really took it to an 11, that's ridiculous. Whereas Pete in Goof Troop and other depictions often is a more gray character.
There are times where he ends up as a clear-cut villain. Other times he's more sympathetic. Other times it's a more gray matter. And that's something that happened with Goof Troop.
In Goofy movie, Pete is clearly the villain. He's unrepentant. He's unsympathetically evil, in a way. Then you've got a very Goofy movie where he's not evil. Actually, he's the mature one between him and Goofy. And Goofy's kind of sabotaging his own life and his son's life a little. So we've got this very complex character in the form of Pete. So, yeah, I think he fits Denethor, which means Boromir and Faramir have to be PJ and Pistol. The question is of assigning which role. The problem is we have to consider the One Ring for plot purposes. PJ would have a better time resisting it than Pistol. And as Boromir must die, sadly, we have to kill off Pistol. The weird thing is Boromir is such a masculine character and macho character. That's part of his charm. Pistol is no such character, but we need PJ to play Faramir, so why not? Well, I guess we've got Boromir played by Pistol, which makes no sense. Sadly, this means Peg isn't showing up. Okay, let's get to some of the mentor characters and other Fellowship members. We gotta go to Aragorn. I've been kind of avoiding him because it's, he's not exactly an easy character to pin down, but now for Aragorn, I'm kind of lost.
I'm thinking possibly Launchpad. Launchpad McQuack.
Oh, dear heavens. Launchpad as Aragorn, the Arthurian king of Lord of the Rings, played by, no offense, but the most incompetent character in Disney history, who can't land a ship and who's a general follower by nature. GDW? Okay, that means we must have Negaduck and Darkwing in here. Darkwing, let's put him as Éomer, because Éomer and Aragorn do become really good chums. Although Darkwing as Éomer means he's going to need a sister. But on the other hand, okay, the problem is, shouldn't it be the other way around with Darkwing playing Aragorn because he's the more competent character and Launchpad playing Éomer? But that would badmouth Éomer, and I'm a Rohirrim fanboy. Okay, we'll stick with Launchpad for Aragorn, just for Disney comedy
reasons. As for Negaduck, I think it'd be perfect to cast him as the Witch King.
The Witch King of Angmar, played by Negaduck. Works. Okay, so he's going to take him down as Éowyn. Wait, Berkeley. Beakley, that's it.
Mrs. Beakley, the governess
from the 90s DuckTales show. Oh, isn't she older than Darkwing?
Yes, much older.
Which means that Grima Wormtongue was stalking an older woman, rather than a younger 24-year-old gal. Okay, this is getting really weird. Let's see, we gotta get Theoden now. Okay, at this point, there's only one character we could cast as him. Scrooge McDuck. Although, Golden Halls. Theoden's Golden Halls is what Theoden's also noted for, so I guess that fits with Scrooge. Then we get to the hardworking, steadfast Elrond and Grima Wormtongue. We gotta cast these two. I'm kind of pulling a blank.
Elrond, maybe Tailspin's Baloo.
But he's lazy.
He's sometimes immature.
Self-serving.
So
the total opposite of Elrond.
Essentially, when he does his job, he does it really well. Very unconventional.
But Elrond is the most competent character, and he's humble, and he does everything for everyone else. Okay, yeah, let's go with this.
As for Grima Wormtongue, how about Tailspin's Don Carnage?
The main villain.
Who
Sure.
is very chatty
Well,
himself.
Grima is pretty chatty, so it fits. And Grima's best skill is his silken tongue. Hence why he's called the Wormtongue. Carnage, from what I remember, was pretty silken-tongued at times. Alright, so we've got most of the crew. Oh, because Bill the Pony belongs to Mickey at this point, we might as well stick Pluto in that role. Although it'd be Bill the dog. Okay, the dog person in me loves it.
Wouldn't be the first time that Pluto played a different animal, even though he remained in the form of a dog.
This is getting weird. Okay, we need Theodred, son of Theoden. We're gonna need Fatty, and I think we'll pretty much be finished at that point with... Oh, and Glorfindel. Nobody could ever forget the glory that is Glorfindel.
Or Galadriel.
Oh, and Galadriel. I almost forgot her. Of course, you got Caraborn, who's just an afterthought. All right, for Galadriel, Clarabelle. Although Galadriel's not much of a gossip.
Clarabelle, being one of the most beautiful...
Almost, well, she is the goddess from Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces. Yes, Clarabelle in that role. Hey, come on, we went with Launchpad for Aragorn. We're already down a drainage pipe. And I'm gonna say Louis from Tailspin for the role of Fatty.
Okay.
Considering he delays the Nazgul and helps save the day to an extent, if in a small way, that people often forget about. And Louis often did that in Tailspin.
Yeah. For Glorfindel.
Powerline!
Oh, yeah.
No one's as cool as Powerline from Goofy Movie. Which means that Glorfindel's basically a pop idol. Well, he's got the looks for it.
I suppose.
Well, he's described as having long, flowing, golden locks, flaxen locks, and just being the most magnificent warrior and riding around with bells attached to his horse.
I suppose it fits.
Now for Theodred.
Theodred. There's very few that go with that. Oh, how about Panchito of the Three Caballeros?
Which one was he? The gun lunatic?
Yeah, the one firing his pistols all the time.
But Theodred's not a lunatic! Okay, so we've kind of butchered this. Pippin's wife is going to be played by probably Gadget from Rescue Rangers. We've got Daisy as Mary's bride. I always forget their names. I shouldn't. I do. I don't know who Jose... Oh, I know for Jose. Tom Bombadil. Jose does have a lovely singing voice and does have a more playful personality.
Yeah.
The only thing is it means he has to have a love interest.
No, it's not that tough for Jose. We just have to create a love interest.
Fair enough. At this point, we're kind of out of characters. So we've got Jose as Tom Bombadil. That really fits. You can tell we didn't plan this at all. We only planned a little. I think just one or two. Then it just ran away with us. Like Baloo as Elrond. This is a disaster of a movie. And I could see this being a serious Disney flick that Eisner and his staff of 2D animation artists would try to throw together if they had gotten their mitts on The Lord of the Rings. Which, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. And of course, the frame narrative would have to be worked around Goofy telling the story to Max. Basically, the idea being that Goofy cracked open the book at bedtime when Max didn't want to go to sleep to recount to him and read to him the story of The Lord of the Rings. As also a nod to Tolkien having read or at least recounted much of the story of The Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion to his sons and daughter. Do let us know what you think.
If you think there's differences in the cast that you would make, put it down in the comment section.
Yeah, and don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Sauron trying to smash Gil-galad into pieces.